Forget everything you know about the traditional pirate fantasy. Skull and Bones is taking a darker, grittier approach with our new game direction. We wanted to reimagine what pirates were really like, drawing inspiration from the Indian Ocean during the golden age of piracy. This is a world where everything and everyone wants you dead. And for ordinary people like you and me, the only way to survive is to become a pirate. And once you've chosen that life of piracy, there's no turning back.
Skull and Bones will finally be released in February 2024 and there's some fun to be had with this game, but this game comes straight from development hell. Maybe the only other game that is stuck even deeper in this hell is Beyond Good and Evil 2. Empires will rise and fall before we see that game. Skull and Bones was first announced during E3 2017.
There's a new pirate adventure on the horizon, Skull and Bones, and its port of origin is Ubisoft Singapore.
And planned to be released 1 year later in 2018. However, that should not be the case. It was pushed from 18 to 19, from 19 to 20, until in September 2020 there was a new vision for the game and new Ubisoft studios started helping with development. With this new vision, it got delayed even further into the fiscal year 21-22, which ends in March for Ubisoft. However, it got delayed again for another year until we had our first official and hopefully final release date. Well, November 8, 22 came and went and no Skull and Bones was to be seen on the horizon. Same goes for the later announcement date of March 9th, 23. After 5 long years of waiting, and you have to know that yours truly was one of the few hopeful souls that registered back when things were looking up. Of course, I've never heard back from them. We finally arrived at the open beta of February 24. Skull and Bones was originally planned as DLC for the Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which was released in 2013, but Ubisoft, as they often do, decided to stretch the content into a full-length title, and this time it shows. Skull and Bones is one thing exceptionally well as a pirate-themed game: naval combat. It feels rewarding and satisfying. The crew on your ship will call out the ships near you, which carry precious cargo, and you then scope them out to see what's in the hold to decide if you attack or leave them be. If you decide to attack, you can fire your cannons at them, sink their ships and get the cargo out of the water. Or you can decide to board the ship when it's close to sinking. This allows you to procure some more precious loot and then sink the ship. Either way, the game does not offer you the option to be an honorable pirate and let the enemy crew live, which I think is a huge miss. Now we arrive at the major problems of Skull and Bones. Cinematics instead of gameplay, everything remotely perceivable as fun is automated or is done by the game, and I include NPCs as to the game is making it. The gameplay is rather dull. You're stuck with fetch quest on fetch quest on fetch quest, sailing from island A to island B. The quest structure is pretty straightforward. Take this and bring it there. Sometimes it's go there and bring it here. And when they get really fancy with it, it's go there, sink some ships and bring the loot back here. It's tedious and mind-numbing. Outposts are stations where you disembark from your ship to buy supplies, cosmetics or receive new fetch quests. It also is the place where NPCs craft your precious loot into new ships, better guns or better equipment. When you do this for the first time, you get a little cinematic for your troubles. Hey, you don't have to set up a base. In fact, you don't have to think about anything else besides leveling up your ship with all your loot. At Outposts, you can find some resources lying around ripe for the taking, and nobody will call you out on this. You'll also find some more lore items, a bonfire that increases stamina recovery for your ship, and yes, ships have stamina now. Even more loot in form of treasure chests is scattered around the Indian Sea. Some outposts also have vendors, smuggling dens or vanity shops, where you can spruce up your raggedy character and look like the pirate you always wanted to be. In the open beta, we only meet one pirate king, and yeah, they call him kingpins, but that word wasn't even a thing back then when pirates were sailing. This originated about 80 years later, but who gives a rat's ass? So this pirate king, and we're calling them kings from here on out, gives us quests and also has his own kind of watered down story. Right now I can only assume there will be more factions with their own individual pirate kings who will give you uninspiring and mediocre tasks with no substance at all. You can choose your own pirate in this bare bones experience of a character creator. It does not really matter what you choose, as it has no impact on the story or gameplay, and the first thing I did was hide my ugly face with a mask from the vanity store. You are thrown into the tutorial where you maneuver a big ship in a Kobayashi Maru scenario, which basically means you cannot win. This gives you a taste of the big naval combat experience this game is supposed to possess. After the arrival of an overwhelming force of enemy battleships, your ship is destroyed and even your crew is disappointed in you. And I am too, Ubisoft. You immediately get a new lovely little boat with a crew of 2 and scavenge the shallow waters for fish meat and loot to build tools and equipment. The gameplay of this section is rather uninspiring, clicking around randomly with your mouse to scavenge loot from your half-sunken ship. Since you lost the ship and the booty, you are now in debt to the Pirate King and need to get the remaining cargo out of the water before you can progress. The questline structure does not deviate much from this further into the game. Hunting for animals in this small boat is very entertaining. Eventually, you reach that end where you're ridiculed even more by the Pirate King. Let's get this straight. You're a captain, and at this point you should be owed some respect. But because you lost your ship in a fight against the whole fleet and survived, you are now the worst pirate in the whole wide world. From here on out, you go from naval battles to sometimes trading aggressively with third parties to get more loot and the sweet level progression called infamy. You get infamy from exploration, pirating and quests. The open beta only goes up to level 5, but I've seen plenty. Sailing the Indian Ocean is a sight to behold. This game looks great with its dynamic weather, beautiful sunsets and rough seas ahead with its own challenges. Furthermore, the open beta delivered the first sea monster in the game, which seemingly changed color in like 2 weeks of development, or is this a stronger similar sea monster with a higher level and therefore it's red? I truly hope this isn't the case, but we will not know until the full release. In Skull and Bones, loot can be found, farmed or stolen. There's a small economy system where some items are cheaper in one place and more expensive in another, which is totally fine. I like that idea, good for you Ubisoft. There are trade routes with higher chance to find certain booty and you just stuff it all in your ship until it's fuller than my family after a holiday dinner. Then bring your loot to the nearest warehouse and rinse and repeat. Loot can only be sold or used to level ships and equipment. Sometimes you need to increase the value of some loot by giving it to an NPC and just wait. Awesome stuff. And that's all you need to know about loot and its mechanics. Of course, there is money and there might be more than one money system, and of course there's a high possibility for a cash shop implementation, but this is all speculation at the moment. In Skull and Bones there are different types of ships with different speeds, hull strength, weapon slots, sizes and of course level caps, because let's face it, this is a game. The later ships even have special abilities like barrage shots, some need to be anchored to use their super, which sounds interesting on paper, I give you that, but in the open beta, naval combat develops very quickly in running in circles around each other until one party is dead. You can heal repair your ship with health kits, which of course have a cooldown because of reasons. Most battles were over pretty quickly though, either with a devastating loss of hands on my end or some good shots at the enemy weak points to get the loot. Like I said, some fun to be had. In Skull and Bones, you the player are not the main character, you're just a run-of-the-mill pirate sailing the seas. This is no game about the pirate life, piracy or connecting with people. This quadruple A game has a beautiful world of warships, but it lacks severely in depth. This game wants you to
Forget everything you know about the traditional pirate fantasy.
which it fully achieves with simple scavenging mechanics, fetch quests galore, and what appears to have some resemblance of
6
no
years of development for this.
and a little roadmap key jangling, which by the way looks awful and there's nothing on it that would change my mind about this game. Of course, you can have a good time with any game with the right party, but this is a $60/$90 game. I wouldn't know anyone who would be willing to cough up this much money for such a mediocre experience. Artbook and soundtrack might be a cool extra, but that's about it. Of course, let's not forget about the lovely Battle Pass, because let me remind you, this is a live service game, which is in active development and costs Ubisoft a lot of money, or so they claim. As of now, I do not see any longevity for Skull and Bones into the future. I don't think you can turn this ship around, but here are some changes I would love to see or believe they should have been implemented in the first place. Let's start with something that has bothered me since the dawn of hub worlds. The loss of immersion I experience every time another player wanders blissfully ignorant through my lovely lore-heavy cutscene. Limit other players to something like pubs, where you could have some outside activity with other players like drinking, singing, making music, card games to earn some silver or similar things. This way you can find new friends or enemies quite naturally. Secondly, give the players some agency in terms of the loot. Let me go off the ship to gather my resources and let me enjoy the world of the Indian Ocean by foot by stepping onto these islands. The outposts, in my opinion, are just a facade. There's nothing interesting to do. Their only purpose is to provide fast travel, but in order to do that, you first need to disembark and then get on board again. Ubisoft, how's this a quadruple A game? Tell me now.
And you blow everything?
I cannot carry a weapon, don't have a pet. Well, I have a pet, but it only stays on the ship. Cannot drink booze, but I can do some basic emotes. All abilities and features that Sea of Thieves had implemented at its launch. Wow, thanks guys. You shouldn't have. And I mean, really, you shouldn't have. A pirate needs his loot, and that should be one of the best things in the game, the looting part. Naval combat is solid as mentioned before. No! The only thing this game is doing really well. But we just needed the boarding of other ships as an active part and not just a ridiculous animation that pulls over ships from 50 yards away in seconds with the payoff of being pressing F to take all. Because that's the true reward for taking on a ship in Skull and Bones. And last but not least, why can't you get cool crew members for the ship? Sprinkle them around the outposts. Let me do a quest or something for them. Maybe pay them. They could make reloads faster, more damage, more fire resistance. All the things. Make them a secret. Make this in any way interesting to play. Really, Ubisoft, you gotta give me something. This is a quadruple A game. Or so I've heard. These are just a few suggestions from my end that would have made this game a far better experience in my opinion. What did you think about the beta? Did it leave you a bit empty inside as well? Will Ubisoft ever come back to make just a good game? What would you love to improve in this game? Let me know in the comment sections down below, and smooth sailing from here on out. Bye!